I call the Honourable Jacqui Dean.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Chair. Happy to take a call on the Statutes Amendment Bill number 2. We are debating all stages of the bill, and just to restate probably that this is a tidy-up exercise of legislation. There might be some drafting errors, there might be some oversights, some provisions that are non-controversial, and indeed the House does support this. There are a number of clauses in this bill, a number of changes to be made, much to the relief of the relevant minister and department, no doubt. So I'll just go through a couple of them. Parole Act. So it's quite interesting, actually. So this bill will amend the Parole Act, and that will align the treatment of interim supervision orders and extended supervision orders. While National were in government, we made some excellent changes and amendments to the Parole Act, and I'm interested to see that this clause is in this bill. So currently the Act allows for an arrest without warrant to be made if there's been a breach of an extended supervision order. Extended supervision orders are an important tool that the justice system has. So this bill recommends inserting a new clause, Clause 60A, and this would allow an arrest without warrant to be made for a breach of an interim suppression order, and so interim supervision order, I should say. So this is absolutely logical, making good progress around justice laws in New Zealand. So here's another one, Public Records Act. So yeah, this is perhaps it's around a name change or not clause. So Part 25 of the bill recommend removing that. So the amendments in that would change Archives New Zealand's name to the National Archives of New Zealand, and we don't consider that this name change is necessary at this time. Now, my colleagues are riveted. I'm just having a look around the room. Yes, they are. Across the House, again, riveted. I know you are. So will they, because I wouldn't bring you in. So I'll go. There's another one which I thought was worth a mention. Oh, you want me to go over that?
Yes, I do.
No, I'm going to move on. So just finally, State-Owned Enterprise Act, I think is worth a bit of a mention. And this is Part 27 of the bill, talk about, seeks to amend the State-Owned Enterprises Act of 1986. So the amendments that have been put in through the Statutes Amendment would require SOEs to publish accountability documents online after, of course, they have been provided to the Minister, and so the Minister receives the accountability document, then becomes publicly available, and of course in 1986, when this SOE Act was brought about, there were no online facilities for distributing documents, and actually you do see this increasingly through New Zealand legislation, is that when a bill comes to Select Committee, often there will be a clause in there which provides for the release of documents to be online, and I'm thinking maybe of Local Government and Meetings Act, or that sort of public accountability and accessibility. Perhaps in electoral law might be another example where we are now increasingly recognising that the New Zealand community is increasingly moving to an online platform, and the more we can put legislation online, the more accessible it becomes. Just checking my team to see whether they're riveted by...
Yep,
yes, they are. And just checking over the other... Yes, they are. Because this is an important clause in this bill. I won't go on. I might take another call because there are a number of other clauses in here that are probably worth a good going over. But in the meantime, I know there will be other members in the House just chomping at the bit to make a contribution.
Mr. Chair.
I call Kanwaljit Singh Bakshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to acknowledge